All right. Hello. Welcome. I don't even have a title for this show yet. It's going to be edited in, so in post production. So until I think of a title, we're just going to stick. We're basically this is just me interviewing people about their careers and seeing how many people actually have time to talk to me. And Dog here was kind enough to spare some of his time to talk to us and talk about his career. And basically, this the aim of this show. Who knows if this is going to be a show, if this is actually going to be a real thing. But basically, the aim of it is to just like talk to the players, learn more about their careers, really go in depth, like not just about everybody knows Dog as the CTWC winner, but do they know Dog as the CTL Season 7 winner? Like most people wouldn't. So we're trying to figure out a lot of that kind of stuff and see how that goes. So we've got Dog here on the right side, two-time world champion. He's just left because he's had enough of me. No,
Okay.
he's back. So we got the two-time world champ back to back. How are you doing, my man?
Yep, doing good.
That's good. What did you have for breakfast?
I'm not gonna lie, it was actually kind of deluxe. I think it was like eggs and a biscuit and bacon, and I put the eggs and the bacon in the biscuit. It was actually insane. I'm not even joking. It was crazy.
Living the life as a two-time world champ. That's good. Um,
That's-
right. So we're gonna start right at the beginning. Like we're gonna go all the way back. And so, Dog, what was it like being born? No, we're gonna try to figure out. Like, why don't we start with your name? Actually, like, I don't even know the story of like, because you must have been quite young, like when you came up with it. Like, was it
Yeah, okay.
was it anything?
It's a pretty dumb reason to be honest. I already put it in CTM, but pretty much the way it happened was I got the name Dog because there's a video game, a mobile game I used to play, and you could change your nickname in the game
Right.
to like get different achievements, right?
Okay.
So one of them was like a dog theme or whatever. So I changed my name to Dog, and I never switched it. Um, so then I just kept it in that game, and then whenever I got over to Discord, I was wondering what name I should have, and I just decided to use that same name, and then add playing Tetris because Dog was obviously taken. That's pretty much it.
All right, that's cool. Now I was wondering like if it was just like that or if it stood for something like okay, wait, probably gonna have to cut that out. But anyways, so
Yeah.
let's most of the things start with like how did you get into NES Tetris and whatnot, but like that's it's there's not much to it. You've mentioned before, like on different
Yeah.
interviews, like
Mhm.
it's you started watching like because of the CTWC videos, like everybody else, and started playing yourself. So I want to get into like how you got into the community actually, and like what was it like back then? Because you got into the community what like in late 2019, right?
2019. Mhm.
Right, and
So
sorry, go ahead.
back then it was very definitely not as accessible as it is now. I spent like an okay, not an hour, but I spent like a decently long time trying to even find an invite link, and then I was able to find it with like like a Facebook group or something. I found the Discord link there. That's literally how I joined. But like, yeah, back then it definitely was not accessible as it is now. And I found out about CTM because I was actually watching it for a while. Uh, I was one of those people who would watch CTWC like over and over. I don't know why, but I was kind of addicted to that.
That's
And I found out I found out CTM from there as well. And then I was able to join because obviously I knew that CTM was a thing.
what was your like? Because I mean, this isn't about me, but like I just like quickly, like I did the exact same thing. I watched that Jonas versus Green Tea match. Like that was the match I just watched over and over and over again, like a
Yeah.
man working at a factory. Like what were the matches like? You were just replaying the entire time,
Okay.
actually.
The one match that I found insanely hype was Harry versus Buko. Oh my god, I watched that thing
In
like
in 2017.
more. Yeah. The ending of the first game was actually insane. Like it literally gave me goosebumps, like the chills. I'm not even joking. It was actually insane.
Right. Yeah, that was a classic. That was a classic, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right. So you scour the internet to finally find a link for the Discord,
Mm.
right? And so you join the CTM Discord, but your first matches were actually in the Classic Tetris League. So like quickly, like Classic
Oh,
Tetris League, like if for people don't know that's like a like the probably the second biggest tournament. Like most people would say, it's as the name suggests, just a league format. And it's been around for a while, so like it was around like I think it was in its second season when you played your first season, right? And so you like started off like playing in CTL, right? So like how was that server? Like what was that like playing your first matches? Like, what were your thoughts like going into that?
Yeah, I joined CTL just about on the about page. Back then I was a complete normie. I didn't know how to really do anything, and I wasn't expecting to actually like get here in Tetris. So I was just playing just for fun. And CTL was actually pretty easy to join. I actually had some trouble joining CTM because I thought you had to have like a whole application and stuff like that, but you didn't. Um, but yeah, for CTL, I was able to join pretty quickly. And I remember my first match. It was me versus Leslie or Nerds, and I
Mhm.
got rolled 3-1.
Uh,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, that was
yeah.
just. I'm looking at the sheet right now. Yeah, you lost to Nerds, but you played tripping that. You
Oh
completely
yeah,
rolled him, didn't you? You won 6-0.
yeah, I did. I probably would have quit Tetris if I didn't win that one. To be honest.
What it's tripping that you created a man's legacy by not winning that match. If you're listening to this, I wonder where he is anyways.
No,
Shout
I saw one of his streams lately. I told him that he was the first ever win that I had. I mean, he's not really interested me anymore, but
Yeah, he's not.
he still like streams because I'm following him because of like 3 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, yeah, he was a good commentator. Honestly, I kind of missed him. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, so you were so back then there were what like 5 divisions, right? And you were in Division 4, weren't you? And like your first
yeah,
season, you kind of went like so and so. Like it was your
yeah,
first like experience, right? Like so you didn't get promoted. You just stayed in Division 4, and then afterwards, like the next like 4 seasons or whatever, you just blew up the rankings and then like went all the way into Division 1. So like what was going on there? Like what um were you just like what caused this like improvement like over everybody else just skyrocketing like over the divisions, you know?
yeah. Honestly, after that first division, like it's it's never you never really have like a big whole story about how I get good and if I didn't do something then it wouldn't be good. But like if I'm being completely honest, I literally played the video game and then I got better. And that's pretty much it. I There's nothing really to it. Um I just the more I played, the better I got. And I think a big thing is obviously being able to play a lot. And something that I feel like did actually help me was watching CTWC like the whole playlist like 5 times in a row. I don't maybe that helped me or something, but honestly, I never really had like a training regimen or anything like that. I kind of just played the game and was able to climb up the rankings.
Right. And like back then like I'm not quite sure about the story, but weren't you like a DAS player like right at the beginning? Or like how like
Yeah, I was.
right. And then you just like well, wasn't it like this might be completely wrong. Wasn't it like you just saw like I think it was Mark like hyper tapping and just like
Yeah.
going crazy, and you just thought like, hey, why don't I just do this? Right?
Yeah,
Was it like that?
oh, yeah. Yeah, and like obviously Joseph was the first hyper tapper, but the one that actually inspired me that to start hyper tapping was Mark, just because he wasn't like Joseph, he wasn't the best player in the world. He was just a person that sort of just learned hyper tapping on his own, and that sort of told me that like I feel like I could also learn hyper tapping. You know, it's not just like Joseph, which is the best player in the world.
Right. Okay. So you're a hyper tapper. You're ranking up the divisions, and something that like me personally, I have no idea about was actually like you're a great player. You've won CTWC, like I've said about 5 times already within like 11 minutes. But you also run Classic Tetris Brawl, and it's not that active anymore. Like you do the odd championship, but back then, like it was like a monthly thing, and
Yeah,
you started that like pretty early, like when you were playing. So like
2000, 2019. Yeah.
2019? Yeah. So like what was that like? What was the idea behind that? What inspired you to do that? And like what did you like? What was Brawl like in the very early days?
I'm gonna be honest. Starting CTB, I kind of just wanted to start it just to start it. I didn't really have any motive other than just I wanted to manage something, just got a bunch of free time. Um, and I felt like I had a lot of ideas that could be executed, which I didn't really execute because no one was in Brawl. But yeah, it was something that just slowly grew, and now, it's sort of become like a more of a one-time thing every 3 months or something like that every season. Um, I feel like that makes it more meaningful and more hype than like having a tournament like every day, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. Right. So, so you rocked up the divisions until you got to the promised land. You got to Division 1, and your first season, do you remember your first season in Division 1? It was season 6, right?
I'm gonna
And
be real. I have absolutely no clue what happened.
right, so let's try and refresh your memory. So you're in Division 1, you're winning most of your matches. Yeah,
Oh, I remember.
it was Quaid, Muhammad, Adam,
Yep.
those guys. It
I
was
remember
it,
I
uh,
remember the Quaid incident. Yeah. Quaid left, and then I lost to Adam, I think, which is the reason why. If Quaid didn't leave, I would have won. I'm pretty sure.
Right. So let's backtrack a little bit here. So you're in Division 1. You're winning most of your matches. I think you played your first set like of the season against Quaid, and you swept him. And Quaid like joining CTL was a bit of a weird thing, anyways, because like if you join CTL, you're supposed to like play your matches within a certain period of time, and that usually requires you to have a certain amount of free time available, and which Quaid didn't really have. He could just play once a week when he was at like Steve DeLuca's house. I think was the
Yeah.
story. So you're winning most of your matches in Division 1, and it's you and Adam MTS, like the DAS player from Poland, who's unfortunately retired now. The legend himself, Adam. It was you and him really like fighting for the Division 1 title, and then you played against a certain player called Muhammad, who was a old school CTM player, like not in the community unfortunately, but he was a old school DAS player, and he was in Division 1 at the time, although he was like not really like one of the lower Division 1 players, and you played him, and it didn't really go your way, did it?
I don't remember. I'm gonna be real.
So okay, so basically just to fill in the blanks in the story, so you played against Muhammad, who you were very
Mhm.
much expected to be, and it didn't really go your way. I think you ended up splitting in sets, and so like that left a little bit of a gap, and then you played against Adam, who is another DAS player who you would think you would beat, right? And that
Yeah.
also kind of, you split in sets, didn't you? Right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't really think I would beat anyone, to be honest, because at that time, I wasn't regarded as a really like a high level player. Like, I mean, I guess I was in Division 1, but like, I wasn't really like regarded as like what I am now.
Right.
So I wasn't really expecting to actually win anything. Um, I kind of just played the game, to be honest.
Right.
I didn't
So,
have very high expectations.
right. So okay, so you either way, that happens. You play against Adam, and then I distinctly remember this because I still am like Adam's biggest fanboy, and I want Adam to win everything. So I follow Adam's everything. Like Adam, Adam is my hero. So I remember that Adam actually had two more sets to play against Quaid, and he he was, it wasn't sure that he was going to beat them, but I think I think the situation was if he won both sets, then he would have won the division. Those
Yeah,
sets never happened, though, did
and
they?
then because Quaid left, yeah.
Yeah, Quaid left, and so all like the sets that you played against him, the points that you racked up against him were all of a sudden invalid. And all of a
hmm
sudden, one day, I just get the news: oh, Quaid left CTL. Adam is the Division 1 champion.
Yep.
that's that's
All right.
that's that's rough, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely I wanted to win. I don't to be honest, I don't really recall much of like how I felt, but I think I was kind of hoping for Adam to be like, "Oh, I feel kind of bad. I'll just give the championship to you." That's exactly something that Adam would do. I'm gonna be real. But I mean, yeah, I mean, to be honest, now that I look at it, I'm kind of glad that Adam won that because, that was one of his last showings.
Yeah, that was Adam's big win and one of his legacy things. But no problem. Next season, season 7, what happens there? Did you
Um,
remember season 7?
yep, I think I just go insane.
You go insane. You win every single set, and you completely curb stomp CTL Division 1.
Yeah.
Like that was your first, like that was before you won Masters, obviously way before you won CTWC. Like that was like your first really big tournament, wasn't it? Like what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, it it was pretty unbelievable for me because I feel like so at this point I realized that I could actually be like the high level player. Like obviously whenever I started, I wasn't expecting to be like as high as like Jonas or Joseph or anything like that. But now I was at this point, I felt there was actually more expectations. And I feel like that time I was actually able to take all the wins and just play successfully. And was this a did I have a 1.3 at this point? I think I did, right?
Yes, so I was gonna get to that. That was actually like when you
Yeah.
were really popping off and like stuff like
Mhm.
1.3 happened. And so
Yeah.
yeah, let's talk about it. Like in I believe it was June, like June, like you were an early qualifier. I think it was June you were qualifying for CTM, and I think July was a break. So actually, like you were qualifying for August, and you just popped the hell off. You got a 1.3, and that was, by the way, now like 1.3s are nothing. Like even DAS players can get
Yeah.
1.3s. Like it's not a big deal anymore. But back then, 1.3 was a huge deal because, well, there were multiple people who claimed 1.3s. Only one of them was legit, but we won't get
Yeah.
into that. So you were actually the second person after Joseph to get a 1.3, and you did it in CTM calls. Well, like
Yep.
what happened? Like what? How did you just? Because you were a good player. Like you had a 1.2 back then, but like to for you to really pop off and get a 1.3, it was a big deal.
Yeah, it was something that, to be honest, I was not expecting at all. And I'm gonna be real. I think I watched my own 1.3 like at least 100 times, bruh. I'm not even joking. I got so hyped after watching that every single time. Like, I feel that's still like I feel like in my opinion one of the most hypest moments that I've had in my career. And I feel like it's also kind of crazy that at the time we thought that was like the seventh 1.3 in the world or something, whenever it was actually the second. So, I mean, I guess that was also kind of insane.
Yeah, that's that's a that's a little footnote in the rabbit hole of the entire story of
Yeah.
CTM. That
No,
will
that documentary about about Tetris, skip that part.
Yeah, just skip that part. Dog is the second 1.3 player in history. That's all you need to know. Joseph was the first. So yeah, so that was exactly that. That was a time when you were really popping off, getting 1.3 in quals. You know, season 7 going perfect, and there was one game that it might not actually be that important, but I just want to know like if you actually remember this. Do you remember? I'm not sure exactly which month this was, but this was CTM Masters round 1. You against Eric, um,
Mm,
one of the earlier months. And
yep.
even though it was just a random round 1, it's mostly forgotten now in the community. But that was a big deal at the time for a simple fact that, by the way, back then, like the first rounds were best of 3. And that was the very first time where a player maxed out every single game and still lost. I'm not sure if that was actually the first one, but it was. I think the first one out of CTM, it was definitely a very very big deal. Do you actually
Yep.
remember that match?
Yeah, it was kind of one of those moments where like it was kind of unbelievable, and I kind of realized how like far that the skill has gone. I think at that time I didn't actually have 1.3 yet. I think
Right.
I
Yeah.
was still like not as relevant as Eric or someone like that.
Hmm.
Um, but it was still really insane. Maxing out 3 times and losing, and it wasn't really devastating as it was kind of just unbelievable.
Right. Yeah. So like, did so you weren't like, oh my god, like I did everything I could and I still lost. Like, was it like,
Yeah.
you knew this was gonna happen? Like, like I think everybody in the community knew, like, okay, this is where it's gonna like where it's gonna get to. People are maxing out and still losing. That at the time,
Yeah.
obviously now that's like a normal thing, but at the time that was a big deal, and I think a lot of people anticipated it, but I don't think a lot of people anticipated it to happen like right there, like still witnessing for the first time in front of their eyes. Dog out here playing his best, maxing out every game, and still Eric is
Yeah.
the winner. Like it was
Mhm.
madness. I was just curious if you remember that match because that like stuck in my head because that was the first time where I thought like, damn, this dog guy is he's gonna be a problem. Like this guy's pretty good. Um, so right, so you win CTL. We've gotten through that. You go perfect. You don't play CTL anymore. You're too good for that. No one cares about CTL. No, I love CTL. Says a CTL moderator. Um,
Mhm. Kind of obligated to say that, to be
yeah,
honest. Not
it's
gonna lie.
it's contractually obligated. My salary would be cut from the grand total of $0. So at the time you were a top player. Establish yourself, winning CTL, being a 1.3 player, a very rare accomplishment at the time. But at the time you weren't actually like winning masters, right? Like you made top 4 multiple times, I remember. But you
It's
never.
kind of crazy.
Sorry.
Oh my God. Okay, I was gonna say it's kind of crazy because the Masters where I got 1.3, I'm pretty honest. I qualified Wait, okay. So the same month where I got my 1.3
Hmm.
was also the same Masters where I got swept by Alex S. I think it was because like people realized how good I was, and I feel like I had actually a lot of pressure, obviously because I got my 1.3, and that's whenever I felt like I actually had weight on my shoulders playing a Tetris match.
Right. No, I actually remember that now. Yeah, you played against Alex S. That was the month where our old friend, unfortunately never seen again, Garbage Egg, made the finals, didn't he? That was
Mhm.
that was that month. Yeah, Alex S. I remember that. He had to play. I think he had to play Adam first, or or Adam second.
Yeah.
But he went through this bracket. He played the two most recent CTL champions, and then just went through the bracket, which was
Yeah.
quite a surprise. But yeah, so aside from that month, like you were obviously at this point like established as a top player, being in Masters like basically every month. But you never like went all the way and won it at that point, right? So like was it like nerves or like not being able to like, go the extra step? Like what was withholding you from becoming like a Masters winner at that time?
I think a lot of it was me still not being completely adjusted to my nerves.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously I still get nerves, but like before it was definitely much worse. Um, but I think that definitely I don't think I played bad. I just was sort of prevented by those nerves that other people were able to win.
Right. So so yeah, that's basically the story up until CTWC, isn't it? Like you're a top player, not quite winning Masters, but you've already won CTL, you've already won a major title, a 1.3 player, and then we it was pretty obvious, state of the world at the time that CTWC was going to be online in some form, and you so like let's go back from like obviously you won it and all that. We'll get to that, but like what was it like when CTWC was announced? Actually, one thing that people might not completely know is that at the time when you wanted to register for CTWC, there was a like a age requirement that you actually hadn't met yet. Like what was what was that like? Did you actually think like, oh Jesus Christ, I'm not gonna be able to play in the biggest tournament because I'm not like I was about
Yeah, I don't know. It was like something that I knew existed, and I did reach out, and I was able to get something to work, and I was able to actually play. But then I actually made the decision to just not play in CTWC, like around a month before, and I just, even though I went through the whole process and I got like scout to help out and stuff like that, um, I just decided not to play in CTWC, and just I didn't feel like my work was wasted because Benji also was able to play because of what Scout was setting up.
mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I was actually I almost didn't play in CTWC until the last second, and I just felt like it was a good idea, and I signed up last minute pretty much.
That's you just took me aback. I had no idea. That's crazy. Um, so right, so you sign up last minute. You're into CTWC, and then um, actually around that time, like everybody knows what you look like now. Everybody knows. Well, most people like probably know your name. Like most people know things about you. At the time, you were just like a person with a picture of a dog who just like played Tetris, right? Like you were
Yeah.
completely unknown, right? Back then, I thought because you're a pretty smart guy. You talk well beyond your years. I thought you were some like 30-year-old guy. I had no idea you were just like some 12-year-old kid. Like so I remember you played your top 4 match in Masters. I think your last match before CTWC began, and that was against Koryan, and you did your face reveal, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So well, like obviously you knew that you were gonna have to like face reveal for CTWC.
Yeah.
So like what was that like? Like just like putting yourself out there, just like not no longer just being a picture on a OBS scene.
Um, it was, to be honest, I don't really remember thinking much of it. Um, like I kind of realized that people don't really care that much. So I just decided to just put my face cam up there. And I think, in my opinion, face cams are just super necessary for keeping people engaged. And I think it's really good that like face cams are actually becoming kind of like the normal because I think that's just so much more engaging. compared to no face cam.
Yeah. And yeah, I actually paid Dog to say that. That's why we have face cams here for this
Yeah.
interview. No. But yeah, so you put yourself out there and then you get straight into CTWC qualifying. So at the time, obviously, you were a top player. You were expected to make it, and it was also like a big deal, like around the community. Like, what's the cutoff gonna be? You know, a lot of people are actually thinking like, oh, is it gonna be like 700K to get into like the top 64, or like 800K or whatever? It ended up being like over 900K, which almost nobody except for the
Yeah.
biggest pessimists in the community expected, right? What
Out
do
of MTS.
you... Yeah, Adam's pretty good. More people should listen to him, honestly. More
Oh yeah,
people
I'm not
or
even
should
gonna
have
lie.
listened to him.
I can't remember the last time he's been incorrect.
No,
I'm
honestly,
gonna to be honest.
he's a genius. Honestly, he's just never wrong. He'll make a like, I don't know, like 600-word essay as to why average of 3 qualifying is better than average of 1. And look where we are now. I mean, we have average of 2 now, but like the point
No,
stands. Like
yeah.
average of 1 is stupid. So let's get
All right,
back.
all right.
Let's get
Let's
back
get back.
into
Let's
it.
get back.
So where are we? Where we're at? Right. So CTWC qualifying. I think you. I mean, obviously, like it was expected that you'd make it in. You made it in. I think you maxed out with what? Like you maxed out 6 times during the
Six,
call.
6 times. Yeah.
Right. And there wasn't there like didn't that clip appear of you just like raging at the thing? And
Oh my god, bro. Yeah, that's my most viewed clip by far on my channel. Yeah.
if anybody's listening to this, Dog Playing Tetris Twitch channel, just sort by most viewed clips, and you'll find Dog getting. Didn't you already have like 4 max ups at that point?
Yep.
And you just like I think you threw your controller and that made your console reset.
Yep. It literally froze my console. Oh my god. At the end of the qualifier, I was actually kind of mauled that I only got 6 max outs. I don't know why, but I just was. That's so weird.
Poor you. I thought I had it bad with my 960, not even maxing out once in qualifying. We've got Dog over here upset about only getting 6 right. So anyways, so you make it through qualifying, you breeze past it, and then the brackets come up. And the thing with the CTWC brackets, like at the time, I think generally when you look at the brackets, it was usually like 2 people who would stand out as the ultimate favorites for each bracket. And for your bracket, not sure which one. I think it was Group A even or whatever, but
Oh, it was Group C.
Group C, right? So for Group C, the 2 big names. Obviously, everybody there is pretty good, but the 2 big names everyone's expecting to win is Dog Playing Tetris and Koryan. And so you make it through the bracket, and you two meet up in the I think it was the upper bracket finals first,
Yeah.
and you play against Koryan, and you're victorious in that match. But that wasn't the match where like you both just go absolutely
Yeah.
insane, right?
Mhm.
So you win
Yeah.
that match. Koryan makes it through the lower bracket final, and you and him put on an absolutely amazing show. Like, what was that like? You both had like double 1.1s for like 2 games, I think. Which obviously
Yeah.
now, but like at the time, that was crazy. Like it was, I think it's even titled like best Tetris match ever. On
Yeah.
because it literally was like it was transcending like the whole game. Like it was crazy. Um, what was that like?
Yeah, it was pretty insane. I think what really helped and what actually allowed me to play that good, was just the fact that I was able to win against them in the winners finals, and I just felt super confident and good about my play. So I was just able to pop off, and it was honestly insane just how close it went. Like thinking about it now, like it's actually insane, like how close every single game was. Like less than 1,000 points in one game, less like about 1,000 points in another game. Like that's just insane to think about, to be honest.
It was absolute madness. I unfortunately fell asleep. I didn't watch. I watched all the bracket finals except for that one. I missed I missed the best one. But I woke up to quite an amazing match.
It was such a boring game. It makes sense.
Yeah. I fell asleep. I just can't be bothered. Dog versus Corey. I'm like, that's not gonna. They're gonna probably top out at like
Yeah.
700K. Who cares?
Oh
But
yeah, yeah.
right. So you make it through the bracket. You play the best Tetris match ever at that point, and you. I don't think there was like anything going on at the time, so I think you jumped straight like from that match right into the top 8, and your top 8 match was against Cheese. It was against Cheese, right?
Cheese, yeah.
And
Okay, I
Cheese.
remember. I don't know if many people know this, but Cheese before the match, all I saw whenever he's warming up was pieces like literally like teleporting over to the left and right. And I was like, dude, what the heck is he doing? And then, now it's rolling. But people didn't know that. So all I saw in the warm up was just the pieces like transcending from the left to right. Like, dude, I was so confused. And I was kind of scared like what he was doing, but he didn't use it against me. But that was really weird.
Dude, that was well, we touched on it there. We might as well talk about it. That was a crazy period because at the time, obviously rolling wasn't a thing, but like rolling kind of came about in like whatever groups Cheese hangs out in, and it kind of just like came out secretly, and then Cheese started using it like without any context. He just started streaming, right? Without any context. Just get like
$1976 too.
yeah, he just do crazy stuff like 30 hertz taps on 29. Be like, what is this guy doing? So
Yeah.
I even remember at that point like kind of knowing I didn't know obviously I didn't know what rolling was, but I knew that like Cheese was doing something that was allowing him to do these crazy things. So I was like, dude, Cheese might win this. Cheese might become world champion, right? And and obviously you had that like obviously maybe you didn't have that thought, but you thought like dude, Cheese is going crazy. Like what? Were you actually like, dude, I'm actually gonna lose this to Cheese because he just came up with
Um,
he just revolutionized
I
the game.
yeah, at the time I knew he wasn't gonna use it, so I wasn't really nervous about it. But I remember him like, okay, I still don't know why. Maybe he's trying to make me play worse. Um, but like a lot of times in DMs he just kept asking me, "Hey, how's your rolling going? Yo, are you practicing rolling? Hey, yo, how's your rolling?" Like, like multiple times. I don't know if he was like trying to distract me from getting good or something like that. But I remember that. But I didn't actually try rolling that much because there wasn't a glove. Glove completely revolutionized it for me. But like before that, I was completely garbage.
Right.
So I
Well,
just
we'll get to your rolling stuff more recently
yeah.
in a bit. But so you play against Cheese, despite his tactics to try and throw you off. Yeah, you actually do win. And then before the top eight bracket came out, a lot of people had it penciled in that it was going to be Dog versus Joseph, the semifinals. Like, obviously, I think Joseph was the overwhelming favorite to win that. He was still like, you could
Yep.
say in his era, like winning like all the masters that he would attend, he wouldn't qualify every month. And Joseph was the overwhelming favorite, but everybody thought, if anybody's going to take down Joseph, it's going to be Dog. So everybody had that penciled in, like Dog versus Joseph. That's probably going to decide who wins CTWC. But history didn't work out that way. You play against Huff, who pulled off the amazing upset, dethroning Joseph for you, and you played against
Yeah.
Huff. Like, what were your thoughts? Like, did you think like, okay, were you preparing like mentally, like, oh, I'm gonna play JD in the semifinals, or what was all that like?
I 100% thought I was gonna play Cheese in the semifinals. So whenever Huff
Joseph?
won, yeah,
Yeah.
JD. I
Uh,
100%
oh,
thought
JD.
he was gonna
Okay.
win. But whenever Huff won, I'm gonna be real. I was kind of relieved. Because okay, so obviously, Joseph versus Dog would have been like a crazy match, but at the same time, I wanted to win. So, uh, and I thought of Huff as a weaker player in like my eyes. So, I was kind of glad that happened. Obviously, not I wouldn't say he's a weak player at all, but
No,
back
no.
then that was just my mental like thoughts.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah. So again, then against Huff, of course, I kind of just played how I played normally. So,
Right. Well, we'll add a bit of context. Obviously, now everybody thinks of Huff as this crazy monster who, gets 2 million on 29 with rolling or whatever. But at the time, he was just like a tapper. He wasn't even like that fast of a tapper. At the time, he was known as
mhm.
like a consistency monster. Actually, like I don't even think he had a 1.2 at the time, but he was just a guy who was so consistent
Yeah.
and could do so well in comp. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's just adding a bit of context. Like, so you play against Huff, and then obviously, like, were you following the other side of the bracket? Like, I'm sure you were, but like, what was your thoughts like thinking about the other side of the bracket? Because obviously, you know everybody thought it was going to be Dog versus JD who decides who's going to win CTWC, but there was still the other
Yeah.
bracket going on, and a certain PixelAndy was right there, and won the bracket. So what was following the other bracket like?
Yeah, I was definitely following. And I was kind of how can I say it's like I wasn't 100% expecting Andy to win, but at the same time, I definitely knew that he had the potential to. And I felt like after he won that game against Allen, that he definitely had it. And he could definitely win against Nenu. Which Andy versus Nenu was a pretty historical matches for all the things that Nenu had to do to get set up.
Right. So obviously Andy makes it through the bracket. You've made it through your bracket. You both meet up in the finals. And obviously, right. So I just want to know this, right? So everybody in their heads likes to make up narratives. We'll go on a bit of a tangent here. So everybody likes to make their narratives. It was the narrative between the underdog versus a seven-time world champ that obviously, JD versus Jonas that popped off on YouTube and arguably made the scene what it is today. So obviously CTWC, they're looking for narratives. They're looking for like narratives for the viewers to cling on to, things for people to like want to make them watch the match. So with you and Andy, it was very obvious, like brother versus brother. But they almost, I feel like a lot of people have it in their heads that it's like you two were like with each other like 24/7, like you two were like sleeping in your bunk beds when you were like 6 years old, thinking like, hey bro, like we're gonna conquer the world of Tetris. Like a lot of people have that in their heads when they think of you two as brothers.
Yeah.
What is it actually like having a top player be your brother, like your brother being a top player who you even faced off in CTWC? Like what is that actually like how much would you consider Andy your biggest rival?
I definitely think that, having that, I feel like it definitely is a very big motivator to get better. Um, and I definitely wanted the finals to be me versus Andy.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's not really like what everyone thought it'd be, like a brother versus brother competitive. Like I start molding at him if I win against him or something. Sorry, the other way around.
It was
It's
gonna
not
break. It
something
was
like
gonna break the family apart or something.
yeah, exactly. People try to make that try to sort of make that narrative that like we're competing and like fighting to the death, but no, I mean it's really just like a sort of a way that we can motivate each other to get better at the game.
Right. Would you actually consider him like, like if you consider anybody a rival, would you like consider Andy your biggest rival?
Yeah.
All right. Um. So you and Andy, obviously the death match between two brothers, like whoever wins is gonna keep the house or whatever, right? So obviously none of that's true, but you and your brother, you play in the finals and you end up victorious,
I
and
ended up in the house, yeah.
yeah, you won the house, and and then you so you obviously win CTWC. You're the world champ. What was that like? Becoming the world champion.
It was like that's something that I was not expecting at all. It was something unbelievable, and it was also very is an experience that I've never felt before. And something that I also never felt before was whenever I was down two on Andy, and I was just kind of like I was talking myself because I wanted to win that really bad. And I feel like that dig in game three might literally be like my heart rate PB. I'm not like it's actually insane. Like I don't know, I was just so nervous and I was just trying to keep myself chill in those last three games that where I river swept.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on that because that was an amazing moment. I still sometimes rewatch that moment just like for the because obviously, you know, James Chen he knocked that commentary off the park. Honestly, like he had the iconic line like, "How do you tap
Yeah,
that fast?"
yeah,
And
the James.
and then you came back. You were down 2-0. You came back. You won that match with that insane dig. I thought it was over. I thought Andy's the world
Yeah.
champion now. And you came back. You won the next two games. You're the world champion. And well, obviously the story doesn't end there because right afterwards, I'm actually not sure which came first, but there were two
Uh,
tournaments right after that you played. Was it
I know that I won CTM after I won CTWC.
right? So
And
you,
I want to touch on something real quick,
yeah,
like
go ahead.
that happened during CTWC. And obviously Game Scout and everyone is in a VC during the finals, right? And I remember people are in VC whenever I was in that dig situation, right? And then literally I remember people saying like GG, Andy is the world champion. I remember people saying that. And then I don't know, I think the reactions were like actually insane. I don't 100% remember it now, but I think it was pretty crazy.
No, I mean, I'm sure they were. Um, that's crazy. So afterwards you play so you play CTM Masters, and hot streak. You win your first Masters title right after becoming world champion. What was obviously you talked about like obviously you were more nervous back then before you were world champion, like at that time where you weren't quite winning CTM, like going that extra step. Um, was it just like you were the world champion, all the nerves are off of you, and you just went out there and completely curb stomped CTM?
Yeah. So I think after I won CTWC, I feel like that was the peak of my confidence, and I realized what I was actually capable of. So I started just having a good mindset going into stuff like that, and that's why I was able to win CTM. I think, kind of, I get well. I don't want to say easily because that makes me sound like I'm bragging, but I think I with 3-0 the person in the finals. But yeah, I just my confidence was definitely the reason why I was able to take that so easily. But
Right.
so easily, it makes me sound freaking. No,
It's okay. We have to build some sort of characters. You can be the villain of the community if you want. Just talking smack to everybody. No. So I touched on it before. So obviously CTM came right afterwards, but there was another tournament that you played around that time. I'm not sure if you remember it. So let me just pick your brains about it. Do you remember World Puzzle League Open? I think it was the second one that ever happened. It was like the start of like weekly tournaments,
Yep.
and we got the match. We got JD versus Dog in the finals, and it went down all 5 games, and JD just about took it. Like, do you remember that? Like, what were your thoughts on that?
I definitely like that was I feel like a very historical match for me. Just because it was the first time I ever played Joseph. I obviously looked up to him whenever I was first starting playing Tetris. Um, and it was kind of unbelievable. At the same time, I really wanted to win. So people don't look up the match. Just saying, like, don't look it up. Don't look at the ending. Okay. Actually, it'd be best if you would like just stay away from that video. Um,
Do not watch World Puzzle League Open 2 Grand
um,
Finals. No, don't watch that. Don't watch that. Definitely don't Google that.
yeah, I don't think it's a good idea.
Right, but like, what was it like at that time? You obviously mentioned your confidence was at an all-time high. I think you had even like reached the number one spot in Elo rankings, which was obviously
Yeah.
Joseph's for like a very very long time. And like losing to Joseph, like did that kind of like put a little bit of a speed bump on your confidence, or did you just think like, okay, we're the two best players, like it just went his way today?
Yeah, it really didn't affect much. Because I obviously knew I like, okay, it's kind of weird because in one scenario, I really wanted to win, and I was kind of expecting myself to win, but at the same time, on the other side, I was expecting him to win just because he's like, the 7-time world champion. 7-time.
So Joseph is
Um,
the how many times world champion?
7-time world
he's
champion.
the no,
That's
he's the two-time world
insane.
champion. Okay.
Okay, okay. Okay. So, um, okay, what were you asking me? My bad.
I think I was just asking like, what was like, did like losing to JD in that match like put like a speed bump on your confidence, or like anything like that?
Yeah, I don't really think it affected my confidence much. Just because he was the 2-time world champion at the time, so I I wasn't really that like crushed to be honest that I didn't win. Um, and it was just I think it was just a match that I was glad to play in the end.
Right. So you go on. I think we're already in 2021 at this point, and CTM's going on. I think you I don't like it wasn't like you won like every CTM afterwards, but you were like competing. You were probably since CTWC. I think you've definitely won the most CTM titles since then out of anybody. So like in 2021, most of the time you're like competing for titles. You're winning masters a lot of the time. Um, and there was one tournament that I actually wanted to ask you about. I think it was CTL season 14, if I remember correctly. It was the first season of CTL where there was a prize pool. Um, and I think that was the season where it came down to you and Andy. Um, I think for the number one spot, and I think it was even like you two were playing like in the very
Mhm.
last match in the finale of the season, and your brother got your revenge over you. I think he won that, and obviously got the top
Yeah.
prize pool in CTL. Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you remember that season?
I think there was definitely a part in my Tetris career where I started like to sort of not get bored, but sort of like not actually care as much. And this is probably gonna sound weird, but that was kind of the era where I didn't really I wasn't too, crushed if I lost or won either way. At that point, I was kind of just playing because I was good at the game. Um, but like it kind of sounds like I was playing it even though I didn't enjoy it, but I still enjoyed it. But like I feel like it was definitely was not the same as it was before. But I definitely regained the more fun aspect of it later. But I feel like at that point though, I was kind of just I don't know, I was kind of just playing because I was a world champion. I don't know, it's weird. That probably sounds kind of negative, but
Oh,
um
don't worry. Um, so I don't remember like I think this was after CTWC. I think was it going into CTWC that you already had your crazy score of like 1.38 or something? Or
yeah.
so going into that. So at the time, I remember it was like a big deal for you to try and get 1.4, and obviously 1.4 was kind of it was kind of a weird thing because Joseph had already got it, but he wasn't recording. But like multiple sources were in VC, and it's very very much a safe bet to assume yeah that's
Yeah.
real. Like that definitely happened.
I I was in NVC and it definitely happened.
Right.
Yeah.
So take it from Doc. So 1.4 definitely happened by JD as the first one to get 1.4. But for you, obviously you were getting these crazy scores. You were getting like 1.386. Um, I think even like I think another game. I think it was like 1. It was also like a 1.38, like a high 1.3, and then I think you tried to set up for like a kill screen Tetris, and the bar just didn't
Yeah.
come.
Yeah,
Um,
it was my 1.386.
Right. So like what was that was it a big deal for you to try and like get this 1.4? You know, even though you obviously know that it's not going to be the first 1.4, but it's still like a big deal, you know, the first 1.4 recorded and, you know, trying to get it as the world champion, like you're obviously capable of it. Like and it at the time very much a huge achievement to get a 1.4.
Yeah, whenever JD got his 1.4, I definitely was aiming for a 1.4 as well. I kind of hated my play a little bit just because I was playing for PBs and I was playing so aggressive, so that kind of messed up my competition play a little bit. Um, but at the end of the day, I was able to get it. But I feel like the more I played, I feel like the less I actually realized that I wanted to focus more on competition instead of PBs because I feel like that would just be more beneficial for me in the long run. Because I think around that time of me getting or like me going for 1.4 was also around the time where I wasn't really like playing insanely like how I played in CTWC or anything like that.
Right. So 2021's going on. I think you're in and out of like world number one in Elo. I think it was like oftentimes like between you and Andy, and then later on Alex T came along and like was
Yeah.
competing for that as well. And so we were going into the time of CTWC, and at this point, you know, it's no longer that you're some guy who's pretty good, like a 1.3 player who's pretty good. You're the world champion, trying to go back to back, going back there,
Hmm.
into CTWC 2021, and it started off pretty well in qualifying, didn't it? Like you, I think was it the record like for most max outs? You definitely had the number one seat, right?
Yeah. It was 12 max outs in like a 970 kicker, which was the world record at that time.
Well, I mean, it's still the world record, isn't it? Who knows? Maybe somebody will get 13 max outs in real life. But we'll get to that. So it starts off pretty well, and you are playing in your bracket. You are how so you go into your top, not the top eight bracket, the one of your eight brackets, and you
Yes, one of them.
just one of them, and so you're playing in CTWC, and so like what are your thoughts? Like, did you think like, okay, this is mine, like I won it last year, I'm gonna win it again? I think most people would have said you're the favorite to win the tournament. Um, did you think of yourself as a favorite? Did you think this was your tournament to lose?
Yeah, I definitely knew that people were expecting me to win. So I definitely had that those community like wait, community
Pressure, like community.
community community expectations.
Okay,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Um, so I definitely knew I had that. And on the day of the CTWC bracket, though, I'm gonna be real. Like I felt very like refreshed and chill. Um, I don't know. It was very weird. I think I just was able to like chill myself out and kind of just calm down for that day. And I think that was the reason why I was able to play pretty well that day.
Right. So CTWC 2021. You play your bracket on the day, and it was pretty. There were some pretty good matches in there. I think there was one where you obviously were the number one seed. You play against the 64 seed DMJ, and I think he even took you to a decider or
No, no.
no, no. Okay, so but you played pretty well, right? So
Mhm.
for a 64 against one seed, it was a much better match than you'd expect.
Yeah.
Um, and then so you make it through the bracket, and obviously in the end, the player you're facing in the finals to try and get to the top eight is Pokenerd, and Pokenerd at the time was a very definitely more like he was always like known in the community, but at that time he was really
Mhm.
emerging as like maybe like a true contender, and he obviously was one of the very first like rolling adopters and became very good with that. And you and him, almost like reminiscent of like the year before when you had that amazing match against Koryan. You had that amazing match against Pokenerd where you both had double 1.3s, which was completely unheard of at the time.
Yeah.
What
That
was,
was
yeah.
that was just like it was pretty unbelievable. I remember topping out and then watching him just play on kill screen, and it was just kind of it was just such like surreal experience and made me realize that like I need to learn rolling because these species are moving way too fast. Like I actually got to jump on this rolling train soon. Um, yeah, that was one of the reasons why I actually started to learn rolling, like, seriously.
Right.
And I think he was also like the main reason why I started using gloves. I saw him using glove, and obviously he saw success.
Right. So you touched on that. Obviously at the time rolling was definitely emerging. Obviously Cheez came out with his amazing scores, and it was definitely emerging. It wasn't. I don't think anybody really. I think most people had like like the best roller at the time was what like Cheez or Huff or
Mm.
Hydrant, and they had them like as definitely favorites. But I think most people still put you above them. Did you actually think like before that? So you obviously that really inspired you to get good with rolling, like that wake up call, like okay, I need to jump on this. Um, to like keep being very good. And before that, did you think like okay, like it's not? Was it like you didn't think it was viable, or did you think it would take more time for the rollers to really like start dominating? Like what was it? What was the reason you didn't like become like a very early rolling adopter, or like started like seriously practicing? Because I think you obviously knew
Um,
about rolling for a very long time.
I'm gonna be real. The reason why I didn't learn rolling is just because I was so bad at it. Um, because like I didn't know how to roll on the like until I used glove, and then glove just like completely opened a new like field. But before that, without glove, I just could not roll at all. And there's one thing that I always had the feeling of whenever I was playing rollers, and I think I touched on this in the interview in CTWC as well, but it was the feeling that I was always behind. Like that's just what it felt like. Just because, they could just play forever.
Right. So well, we can kind of allude to that. Because obviously you won that match against Pokenerd, and then you get into the top eight, and your first match is against Tristop, who actually, if people remember that match, had a little bit of an ace up his sleeve in one of the games. It actually ended up being the deciding factor in one of the games. He was obviously learning rolling at the time, but he like wasn't as confident with it as he probably is now, and still was very much tapping like up until 29 and even beyond it. But that was the first time where he actually started grip switching and like started using rolling on 29. So, did you know that he was going to do that against you? And like, well, what did you think when he all of a sudden just won a game against you because he just roll switched? And what did you think?
All right. So I told him this after the match, but at the time like that I was playing, I didn't actually know that he switched to rolling at all. I actually realized that he was switching to rolling after the game because whenever I play matches competitively, I don't actually listen to commentary. I listen to music and just focus on pretty much just my own game because words are distracting. So I just listen to music. Um, so obviously I didn't hear the commentator saying, Trish stop switching to rolling or anything like that. And I did see a Tetris flash in the corner in my on 29, but I thought he was just like had a middle well set or something like that. I didn't actually know he was rolling. But I feel like if I did know he was rolling, I feel like my mindset would have actually been a lot different.
Like for the worse or like for the better?
I,
Like,
I think for the worst, to be honest.
right. Right. So, but in the end, Tristop and his role switching in the end didn't stop you from making the semifinals. Where this time the brackets played out a little differently. This time you got to face Andy in the semifinals, and you obviously the big thing the death match of the brothers, I guess, round two at CTWC.
Mhm.
To be honest, at the time, I kind of felt like, okay, it's just two of the top players playing against each other. I didn't even think about the brother angle that much, but was it like anything? Like, was it special, like playing against your opponent from the grand finals last year to be playing against him like in the semifinals? What are your thoughts going into that semifinal?
I feel like my thoughts playing him was kind of just my thoughts going into every other match. But I will say I feel like every time I'm playing him, I feel like I don't really have like as many nerfs. I don't know. I don't really know why to be honest, but I feel like I just don't. And I feel like I'm able to just play more normally, just knowing that either way that the match goes, I think I'm really happy with the result.
Right. So you're victorious over Andy once again, and then on the other side of the bracket, it's almost like history repeating itself because before the top eight bracket began, I think a lot of people expected it once again. Dog versus JD. It's finally going to happen at a CTWC. It's going to be the two most recent world champions, the two hyper tapping world champions. I don't know if like people would say this at the time, but like you could say like the two best players maybe, but at the very least like two of the very top players. And a lot of people were, JD at the time was actually not very active, like playing online tournaments and whatnot. And when he came back, he had an amazing tournament, didn't he?
Yep.
And him against Huff. And I'll tell you a secret. I was so rooting for JD at that point because even though I love Huff, like Huff is my guy. Um, I just want like for the storylines, I just wanted it to like the two world champions colliding. Did you actually think like obviously at this point, Huff is a crazy roller instead of just like a very consistent hyper tapper. So I think a lot more people would have favored him going into that match. But did you think like, oh, it's who did you think your grand final opponent was going to be basically?
I don't know. I didn't really feel like either of them. I didn't really feel like one of them had like a huge advantage or the other. Didn't really know who was gonna win to be honest. So I was just kind of watching along with everyone else. And it was actually kind of crazy to see Huff's rolling in action, and I kind of realized that this is kind of scary. Like this could be the deciding factor in one of my games if he advanced.
Right. So that's actually so you Huff was victorious against JD once again, and it's you and Huff for the CTWC title, and you know kind of what you touched on before, like that feeling of like helplessness when you see rollers playing on 29. It kind of played a bit of a factor at least in that match, didn't it? I think it was one game where I think there was one game where Huff failed a chase down on 29 against you to like chase down the score. And like, was it as you described? There's like that feeling of like, okay, I really need to get on rolling. Like as you were sitting there in that grand final, like playing against Huff.
Whenever I was sitting there, I was just like nervously watching. It was the same as whenever I was watching Pokken to try to catch up. It just felt like um, I don't know. It was just like I felt like he could just go forever. So, but like I actually did know how unstable that rolling was at the time. So I didn't know that if he did misdrop once, it could completely ruin his entire like groove, which was I think the reason why I topped out that game.
Right. Yeah. So obviously, in the end, you're victorious. You're now the two-time world champion, back to back. You won the two biggest tournaments that have ever basically been in terms of quality of matches, in terms of players. And what was it like? Like compare, obviously, your first. Yeah, I'm obviously guessing like your first world championship experience was like much more, you know, happy or like better than the second time. But going back to back, that must have felt pretty good. What didn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of insane. I actually was very content with my place in just in the top eight. That was my goal. So getting first place was something that was kind of just like this is gonna sound really weird, but it was kind of like icing on the cake because I wasn't really actually like aiming to win. I just was aiming to do well and just be satisfied because I knew that if I put too high expectations and I don't get them, I'm actually gonna be like, I'm not gonna be happy at all.
Right. So you win CTWC, and you're now pretty much established as like one of the greatest players ever, probably best player in the world at that point. I mean, you could say still now. I would say so at least. And so you go on. 2022 begins. Like we're only in April. Like there's not much that has happened since then. So you keep going, winning the Odd Masters, winning CTL sometimes. Actually, no, I don't think you've won CTL since then, but doesn't matter. Sorry. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that to you. Um, but no. So one tournament that I actually do want to ask you about since then is the CTWC qualifier, the Waco qualifier, which you obviously won. And that was obviously a big deal because that was the two-time world champions' first real life tournament. What was that whole weekend like?
Um, it was such a different experience than online. Like it's just so much different, especially being on the main stage. And we'll have to say that just touching back on the point you made a while ago, like, 12 max I think could be broken, like 12 max out was record. I totally think it could because I was able to get 10 max outs just in that day for qualifying. Just because like there was never actually like a full line, so I could kind of just keep playing and there wasn't like a 2 hour limit like that. So I feel like that could actually be broken. All right, anyways. But yeah, like, it's just such a different experience. And whenever I got that 1.4 against Doge, it was just like such a different feeling than whenever it was online. Just like hearing everyone cheering and like my BPM was like at its peak. Um, it was just kind of insane, and I feel like a hype feeling I never really felt before until that point.
Right. I want to touch on this like point about like going to your first real life tournament because I'm not sure how much you know about this, but in different esports or whatever, it's often a thing to say like, oh, do it on LAN, which basically means like doing it in real life. Um, which basically like the idea behind that is that a lot of the time when like players who are good in online matches or whatever, they go to the real life tournament. Obviously you're there facing down against your opponent. Maybe there's more nerves, maybe they can't handle the stage. That's like a sentiment that's often said in like other esports, and obviously I think in
Yeah.
Tetris it doesn't matter that much. But was that like a thought in your head? Did you think like how much is my play going to be affected by playing in a real life tournament? Did you think like, oh, this is gonna be like any old online tournament I'm probably gonna win? Or well, did you have any like specific thoughts about that?
Um, to be honest, I didn't really go into it thinking much about the IRL thing. I just okay, well, that's not true. But I didn't like think about IRL affecting nerves that much.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I went there, it honestly didn't really affect my nerves at all. Um, the reason I had nerves to Dog vs Doge is because it was, a huge match. But it wasn't really because it was IRL. Like I don't feel like my nerves are actually increased, and I don't know, sometimes I just feel like I play better under pressure, so I was able to, get that insane 1.4 at the time.
Do you like how big does this rank? Like, obviously, not just about like the prestige of the tournament, because at the end of the day, like if you just look at the players, like it was just like a Masters tournament, like with the players that were there, like Doge, Andy, you obviously, and but in terms of like it being a real life tournament, like where does this win like rank among like your biggest wins? You know, just like winning your first like real life tournament, like in front of that crowd.
Yeah, it was such a different experience. And there was a certain feeling that I felt like I could actually understand what JD was feeling whenever he won his first CTWC, like him like like crying afterward and stuff like that. And I could definitely now like kind of relate to him, just like that feeling kind of washing over you. I can't really put it into words, but um yeah, it was pretty insane. Uh you know, and then you look at the crowd and see everyone cheering. It's just absolutely incredible.
Right. So obviously you win Waco. And this like around that time, I think obviously in that match you were obviously rolling like on 29, right? And this was around that time where you actually began like integrating rolling, at least for your 29 play. So like you obviously mentioned it before. Obviously the glove helped a ton. Um, just like can you like shed more light on like the process of like becoming a roller and getting better at that? Can you shed some more light on that?
Yeah, rolling, me like sort of grinding rolling was something that I felt like after I won CTWC, it was very good that I was actually able to jump on that train after CTWC because I felt like now there wasn't really any reason to not roll. Because the next CTWC is just so far away.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be like messing up my competition to anything like that for the CTWC. I would just being able to, practice rolling just by itself. And I do think that the process is definitely you could say it is frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's actually also very like rewarding to get your PBs. And the first time that I actually broke one of my tapping PBs with rolling was kind of the moment that I realized that like this is definitely something that I need to follow through on and like actually like grind.
Right. So there's one more tournament in the storyline that I want to ask you about, and then I just want to get into like more general questions. So the last tournament I want to talk about was the latest Masters event, where I think like obviously Dog, it's like everyone knows Dog, but at the time it wasn't really established like Dog as this amazing roller as well, like adding like rolling
Yeah.
as a part of his arsenal. And that tournament, you really with rolling just popped off, didn't you? You obviously played your brother in the finals. I think it was something crazy like the combined score of all the matches like completely shattered like the previous record. Like, it was just a crazy match all around. And in that match, you got your PB, you got your first rollover score, right? You got I think a 1.79, and like, was that did it feel like okay, like I've broken through the glass ceiling, like I'm a roller now, like I've really established myself as a top roller? Like what was that like?
I definitely think that whenever I got that 1.7, I realized that I have the potential to kind of just play pretty confidently on kill screen. Obviously before I still wasn't confident about my 4 tap, survive tap, anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that was kind of whenever I knew that, I could actually be consistent with this. And yeah, I definitely think that it definitely changed a lot, actually.
Right. And speaking of like your rolling successes, it felt like the next or a few days afterwards, it was a weird day because all of a sudden I get a notification in Discord that says Huff has scored 2 million points on 29 star. I just think, okay, roller things. And then a few hours later, I see Dog has scored 2.2 million on 29 star, whatever it was. And then just like let Huff have his world record for like 2 seconds. Was it just like, okay, you just like bouncing off of the success with rolling, like all of a sudden now you can just score 2 million points on 29? Like, what was that? Was a pretty wild day, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, that was pretty insane. Going into that session, that whenever I had the 2.2, I was not expecting anything. I was actually playing really well though. And just super consistently. And actually, the day that I got my 1.79, which is on CTM, I actually got a 900K on kill screen, like that day, which is my PB. So I kind of just felt like that was the point where I actually started to become consistent with it. Um, And yeah, I mean that 2.2 million is just sort of never everything came together, my rolling, my sacking, and my consistency with the rolling, and I was able to just get that 2.2. I mean, it's pretty insane.
Right. So let's talk a bit like um about some like more general topics. So I just want to pick your brain about a few topics. So one topic that I do want to ask you about is like obviously in sports or like esports or whatever, like anything with like a competitive history, there's always historians debating like who's the greatest player ever, which players like establish an era of like dominance. Like I think for most people in classic Tetris, they'd say like, okay, JD, Jonas, and you are probably like the top three like GOAT contenders. And then like obviously Jonas had his era like in the first 7 years of CTWC when there wasn't like an online scene, and then when there was an online scene on like CTWC, obviously JD won the back-to-back world championships and was like dominating in online tournaments. And then since he won CTWC 2020, like I think a lot of people would say like we're currently living in the dog era since then. Would you say that? Do you think like since CTWC 2020 like we're kind of living in your era like of dominance, or do you have any thoughts about that?
I wouldn't really say that we're living in a specific person's era, but
Mm-hmm.
sort of just like a certain like generation of these like sort of more younger players like going into the scene, and especially with rolling, and like Cheez innovating rolling, and everyone kind of just jumping on. I mean, honestly, I think about sometimes what would have been like if Cheese kept secret. Like he pretty much just kept it secret and didn't tell anyone until CWC 21. Just like how that would play out. But I think because he actually did tell everyone that this community is just completely different now, and now Cheese isn't the best roller by a long shot anymore. Well, obviously he's still really good, but I'm basically just saying that like there are other players that are on his level now.
Yeah, there's a lot of players like vying for that spot of like best in the world, best roller in the world, and whatnot.
Yeah.
Um, do you ever think like, you know, like where would you rank yourself as like the greatest play, like in the conversation, like greatest players ever? Do you ever think about that honestly?
I mean, not really, to be honest. I mean, I have sometimes thought about like, in my opinion, I think that there's the top four of players. I feel like the top four I have established in my head the top four players I think in the world are Cheese, Alex T, and then Andy, and then me. I kind of just established that in my head. Just because of one Elo, and two, just if you look at the Masters rankings lately and just PBs and just tournament play in general, we're I think at the top mostly. So I think I have just established that in my head if you're thinking about rankings, but if you're talking about ranking myself, I mean I don't really rank myself to be honest.
Right. I was just curious about that. And then we might as well throw this in there just like as a last question. Line caps? Yes or no?
Mm, at the moment, nope. There's literally no reason to do it. Um, if it gets to a point where like literally people are making it to level 306 every single game, like I just don't see a reason. I mean, it's not like people are like getting so bored at someone getting 6 Tetris in level 29. Like I don't know, it's just at the moment we don't need black caps. Definitely not.
Right. So we've reached the end of this. I think we've gone through, your story as a player. You're obviously the two-time world champion. You've won a lot of tournaments, and well, you're not really in the mood for stopping, are you? Because well, we haven't had official confirmation of this yet, but the Portland Retro Gaming Expo has been announced, like or not announced, but it's definitely going to happen. Like we know that it's going
Mm.
to happen, and with that, we're all thinking like, okay, CTWC is most definitely going to be in real life this year. Well, first of all, are we going to see you there? And what?
I'm not sure to be honest. Like I'm not really sure if I'm actually gonna be able to play in CBC this year. It's just something that's I'm really just gonna have to wait and see, to be honest.
Is it like just like the logistics of it of like going to Portland, or is it just do you not know if it's worth going there, or like is it like or like maybe we'll just like make this a bigger point, like where do you see your future in Tetris, like in general? Like if you're saying like maybe I won't make it to CTWC.
Well, at the moment, I have no reason to stop
Mm-hmm.
playing Tetris because it's not like I have like Joseph. I don't really have like college ahead of me or anything like that anytime soon or something like that. But so yeah, right now I don't really see myself stopping playing Tetris anytime soon. So I'm just gonna keep playing. I mean, that's pretty much it.
And like, I'll just ask this: like, what do you actually think? Like, where the scene's going right now? Because obviously, right now we're in a pretty decent period. Like, the prize pools of like the Masters events is
Yeah.
going up. CTWC in real life is probably going to happen. Fingers crossed. Like, it seems pretty obvious it's going to happen now. Um, and obviously, people like me and Pumpy and Vandy and whoever are trying to like try and make this maybe a bigger thing with things like this.
Mhm.
Do you actually like how big can Tetris get? Like how big will this whole thing get? Do you think?
I mean, I think it's definitely growing every single day. I mean, honestly, I can't predict anything. Like the Tetris community is just so unpredictable. Like no one is expecting Rolling to come along and destroy pretty much every single record. No one expecting no one is expecting Eric to get 3.7 in April Fools. It's just impossible to predict at this point.
Right. So we've reached the end. Do you have anything else you want to add out there to the people? You've got your if you're on the mic, you can say anything you want into the Classic Tetris Monthly YouTube channel, assuming that this gets approved.
Um, so right off the bat, I want to say, obviously I just have a really supportive, family and friends, so I appreciate them for definitely being the sole reason why I still play Tetris now.
Hmm.
Um, and so I just appreciate all of that support, and yeah, I just appreciate the community and or mostly my Twitch community. Every time I stream, it's really nice to see people chatting and just like realizing that I feel like I've kind of made this little community for myself as well. So I think that's definitely something that I am grateful for. And also I was gonna say something, but never mind. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I just want to thank I do want to thank though I guess the main people I guess that are just in my opinion just super I gotta like cut that part out. I need to think about this. Um
Right. As you think about that, like, can we just like you touched on your Twitch channel? Like, why don't you like plug it? Like, what are you doing on your Twitch channel? Like, are you trying to? Are you obviously streaming like once in a
yeah.
while right now? Like, what are your plans with the Twitch channel? Like, where can people find you? Like, are you
Mhm.
trying to like branch into different
Yeah.
social media? Like, where can people find you
I
basically?
was gonna go into that, yeah. Okay. Well, and people can find my Twitch at twitch.tv/dogplayingtetris and also my YouTube at Twitch at or just my YouTube at dogplayingtetris.
Hmm.
And yeah, those are pretty much the two main platforms that I use. Also, I have the Class Tetris Brawl Discord. Of course, you want to join that, you can use exclamation mark Discord in my Twitch chat if you want to join that. The next tournament for CTB will be the Fall Brawl Championship of 2022, I believe, or summer actually. So yeah, it's just I have CTB and my streaming that I'm doing lately and my YouTube. So yeah, everything. If you want to find me, then those are the places that you can.
Did you think about your special people you want to thank or?
Oh yeah. And I just wanna thank the main people that really helped me in the tech community, which is of course, Andy for always motivating me to play the game. I also appreciate Sodium or Sodium Overdose for being pretty much the first person that I actually ever really talked to and like the person that actually was my first like supporter in the tech community as a whole. Um and then obviously another few people is just the entirety of the MSM community, people like Miles and uh it's just very I feel like without them I definitely not be where I am now. So I definitely appreciate that a lot.
Right. So all I have to say is thank you so much, Dog, for joining me here today. I think we got a lot out of that. For everybody watching, like, please let us know your feedback. Do you think like they should get a new host? Do you think they should get Vandy hosting these instead of me? Maybe that'd be better. Do you think that, like, if let us know if you think the show should keep going on, or like, maybe the show will keep going on. Who knows? This is kind of more just like a feeler thing. But either way, thank you so much, Dog, for joining us here today, and thank you to everybody who's watched this. Really appreciate that. And yeah, CTM's going on. There's all the links like at the bottom of the bar. And yeah, thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.